Welcome to the deep dive. The material we looked at today is a really detailed breakdown of Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO. It defines it as this new way to get visibility in AI search, things like Google AI overviews and ChatGPT. And I have to say, it makes a pretty strong case for why this GEO thing is essential right now, with conversational AI search really taking off.
Yeah, it's definitely a timely topic. And, I was genuinely impressed by the analysis depth, particularly the quantitative data, how it shows the differences in how various AI models find their answers. That's solid work. The piece clearly gets the shift, away from just SEO clicks towards visibility across multiple surfaces. But if we want this to be the guide, we absolutely need maximum clarity. So I think there are maybe 3 key areas we could focus on, just to sharpen the argument and boost the strategic impact for the reader.
Okay, sounds good. Let's jump straight into the first one then. This seems to be about foundational clarity.
Mm-hmm.
The material introduces a bit of a significant conceptual ambiguity. It uses GEO for 2 different things.
Mm-hmm.
Optimization for generative AI and also optimization for geographical ranking factors.
Yeah, I noticed that almost immediately. It's a bit jarring, isn't it? Because generative engine optimization, that's the core new idea, the exciting part driving the whole piece. But then, those initial sections spend quite a bit of time defining geo using well-established geographic signals. Things like user IP, GPS data, local backlinks, Google Business Profile, stuff the industry already calls geo-targeting or, local SEO.
Exactly. And where that kind of falls short is, well, the material probably shouldn't introduce a new term that leans on but also has to be distinguished from an existing industry term like geographic SEO.
Right.
Using the same acronym, GEO, for both just risks confusing the reader, especially when they're trying to wrap their head around this new AI concept.
It really does. It puts the reader on the back foot from the start. They're trying to grasp this new frontier, but first, they have to untangle these conflicting definitions of the same acronym. And that kind of undermines the authority of the new geo framework being proposed. I get the temptation, linking it to SEO with a 3-letter acronym ending in O, but is that link worth the initial confusion? Probably not.
I agree. So the argument really needs to establish absolute clarity. It has to strictly separate or maybe relabel the 2 concepts whenever GEO is used.
Okay, so to make that actionable, if the listener decides the main focus has to be generative AI, there are a couple of clean options. First, they could just switch, consistently use a different term for the AI optimization part, like AIO maybe. I think that was actually mentioned in the text itself. That gives instant clarity, no ambiguity.
Okay, and what if they really want to stick with GEO for the generative optimization part?
Then they absolutely must wall off the discussion of local ranking factors. All that stuff about Google Business Profile, proximity SEO, local links, move it. Put it into a completely separate, dedicated section. Label it clearly, something like geographic SEO signals. That way, the main discussion about generative engine optimization stays unambiguous. It stops the new concept from, borrowing confusion from the old one.
That seems really critical. Getting that right on page 1 sets the tone for the whole document's authority. Okay, so assuming we've sorted out the naming and the scope, the next big challenge is measuring success, right?
Mm-hmm.
The proposed metrics for GEO success, while, they're good for tracking AI visibility and influence, they could probably be strengthened, bolstered to connect more directly with downstream conversions and core business goals.
Yeah, this is a strategic must-have, especially if you're presenting this stuff to stakeholders focused on, the bottom line, ROI. The material does a good job shifting focus away from just traditional CTR. It rightly looks at impressions, brand citation frequency, sentiment scoring. That's definitely the right direction for measuring influence in this new landscape.
The weakness, though, and the material itself points this out with the zero-click searches stat, nearly 60%, is that focusing only on being mentioned or cited doesn't quite answer the big question. How is this AI visibility actually generating pipeline or revenue?
Exactly.
The measurement framework sort of stops short. It stays at the very top of the funnel, that influence stage.
We need to connect the dots, bridge that gap between getting cited by Perplexity and actually, making a sale or getting a qualified lead. We have to face the reality that a citation in an AI overview, well, it's only truly valuable if it actually nudges the user towards some kind of profitable action for the business. So the measurement framework needs more emphasis on showing how that AI visibility translates into valuable user action. And that probably means needing pretty robust multi-touch attribution and conversion tracking, something that maps the whole journey.
Okay. But tracking that specific journey when the first touch might just be a summarized answer in an AI chat, that sounds incredibly difficult. How do we make that practical advice for the reader without basically telling them to rebuild their entire MarTech stack from scratch?
Well, we start by advising them to explicitly try and incorporate AI visibility into their existing attribution models where possible. For example, make it an actionable step to specifically track AI-driven leads, maybe by retrofitting their multi-touch attribution models. We need to define and then actually track that path from an AI mention, however it surfaced, to a conversion event logged in the CRM, even if that mention happens days or even weeks before the final click or form fill. That moves the whole conversation from just "we got mentioned" to actual documented business value.
And that thinking also helps dictate where the content strategy should focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if AI models are now aligning with user intent stages, from basic information gathering to actually wanting to buy something,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe we should strongly advocate for prioritizing optimization specifically for those high-intent queries.
Absolutely. Focused effort where the payoff is potentially highest. Hone in on content that matches transactional intent. Things like specific product pages, pricing guides, comparison pages, case studies. These are the queries where users are basically ready to act. So ensuring the AI recommendation points clearly to a high-value page and maybe even encourages a click-through, that's vital for the business's bottom line. That's how you turn that top-of-funnel citation into something you can actually measure in terms of ROI.
Okay, that strategic focus on transactional content perfectly sets up our final point, which I think highlights maybe the most strategic and original insight in the whole piece we reviewed. We need to talk about that data showing AI engines frequently citing vendor-authored product blogs.
Ah, yes.
This feels like a really powerful, specific, strategic opportunity, and it should probably be pulled out and positioned as a core geo-tactic.
I completely agree. For me, this was kind of the money shot of the entire document. The analysis showing that AI overviews, Perplexity, Gemini, they're citing product blogs or comparison content published by the actual commerce brands, especially for those really competitive best X or top Y type comparison queries. And the data showing it happening around 7% of the time for some engines, that's not insignificant. That's a real strategic edge if you can capture it.
Definitely. But the weakness right now is how it's presented. This huge strategic insight that a brand can potentially earn an AI citation by comparing itself even favorably against competitors on its own website, it's currently sort of buried deep inside the general AI engine comparison section.
Yeah.
It feels like a footnote, almost an observation, rather than the high-impact tactic it could be. Its value gets diminished there.
It's like finding a loophole, isn't it? It leverages the AI's hunger for structured information and perceived authority. The AI model needs something seemingly neutral and authoritative to answer complex comparison questions. And it looks like it favors vendors who step up and publish comprehensive, reasonably fair comparisons, which in turn helps them establish EAT signals, even if ultimately the content is self-serving for the brand. So we absolutely need to elevate this finding, make it a dedicated high-impact tactical strategy, one that deliberately leverages this AI preference for structured comparison content published on authoritative domains.
Okay, so how do we guide the listener to actually do this? The advice needs to be more than just, hey, this happens. It needs to be like a blueprint.
Right. Advise the listener to proactively create this stuff. Build out highly structured, data-driven category hub pages or detailed comparison content, right, on their own site. The crucial part, though, is ensuring the content covers competitors fairly, reasonably objectively. That's essential to meet those EEAT standards.
If the comparison just feels like a thinly veiled ad or overly biased, it's probably not going to earn the AI's trust. The vendor has to act like a helpful, knowledgeable guide.
And the structure itself is key for the AI to actually use it, right? To facilitate extraction.
Exactly. The content needs clear headings, H2s, H3s, and really concise comparisons, using things like bulleted lists or, even better, comparison tables. Things that are super easy for an AI model to parse and summarize without needing to interpret dense blocks of text. That's precisely the kind of approach used successfully by sites like Thinkific and Monday.com, I think were mentioned. They got visibility in generative results using this vendor blog tactic effectively. It really boils down to optimizing for machine readability within a context that signals high trust and addresses high-intent queries. Pulling the specific tactic out elevates the material from just analysis into truly advanced, actionable strategic guidance.
Okay, wow, that was a really powerful set of refinements, I think. We've covered 3 critical steps to strengthen what's already, very robust material. First, clearing up that conceptual ambiguity around the GEO acronym, just ensuring absolute focus. Second, pushing the visibility metrics towards conversion goals, demonstrating that bottom line ROI.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, really leveraging that highly strategic competitive advantage offered by vendor-authored comparison content, making it a core tactic.
Absolutely. The foundational expertise in the submitted piece is undeniable. It's really strong. Focusing on these high-level strategic refinements, the clarity, the conversion connection, and this specific vendor content tactic will make sure the material isn't just informative, but immediately actionable for driving real business results in this, rapidly evolving generative AI era. We definitely encourage you to integrate this feedback. Think about these points, maybe rework those sections, and please do resubmit the material for another review. We'd be happy to look again.
And if you like our deep dive, please do reach out to us or comment.